the first day of school, of course you can tell. Chief McDade, Chief Lawson, missing a couple of people.
Come on up. Come on up.
Good. Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning. We got a couple more people filing in. Is Principal Thurman around?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. She's still
Here
working.
she comes. Good work.
Sorry.
You want to do a quick welcome?
I'm not.
You don't? Okay. All right. I won't make her do it. Well, first of all, good morning and happy first day of school. I'm so happy and excited to be here. Of course, this is a school year unlike the one we all anticipated earlier this year, but nonetheless, we find ourselves here today. First, I want to start by thanking all of our wonderful educators across the city who worked extremely hard over the past few weeks, this entire summer really, to make sure that our schools were ready and that our children were in a position to learn. We're here at King Elementary with Principal Jasmine Thurman, who is doing an exceptional job of not only supporting and educating our students, but reaching out to families directly every single day. It's going to take educators like the ones that we're highlighting here and those across the city in order for us to make sure that this is a successful school year and that we continue to build on the success that we have been celebrating as a school system for so many years. Last week, we announced a record high graduation rate, and I intend to see record high numbers throughout this school year. I know that that's going to take a lot more from us. And so as a school system, we've done quite a few things to make sure that our students are ready to learn. It started with distributing over 128,000 devices last spring and about 18,000 just over the past few weeks to get our students ready to learn. We also made sure that they had working devices and access to the internet through our Chicago Connected program. And right now, about 25,000 students have access to high-speed broadband internet as a result of that program, and those numbers continue to grow. We're not going to take our foot off the gas. The goal is to make sure that this is a successful year despite some of the challenges that we face in remote learning. And I've just been thrilled walking through all of these, the two schools this morning and just seeing the creativity amongst our staff. You know, I had a lot of questions when I woke up this morning about what this school year was going to look like. How do you get the excitement of the first day? How do you package that in a remote environment? It's hard walking through a school and not hearing kids' voices in the hallway. But when we look on the screens and visit the classrooms that we saw today, we see that our teachers have still captured that moment. There's a lot of excitement, and I have no doubt that this is going to be a fantastic year. So with that said, I'm going to close out my remarks and invite our mayor to the podium for a few remarks, and then we'll take questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. I will be brief in my remarks. This is a school year unlike any other, but the point that we need to emphasize to the parents, to the guardians, and the adults in our young people's lives, make sure that they are connected. We are not leaving anybody behind this year. We want to make sure that every single student in CPS has the same opportunity to have a fulfilling and nurturing learning experience as they would if they were physically in the classroom. And hats off to principals like Principal Thurman, who really started weeks ago, making sure that she was engaging with the people in her school community. That's really what it takes. It's not one day, it's day by day by day, that consistent effort to get the word out that school is in session, learning is happening at CPS. I have to tell you, it's been a thrill for me this morning, going to different schools, going into the classrooms, and hats off to the teachers that were physically in the classes today, and also the building support staff, the people who are on the front lines making sure that our children can still eat, the support staff who are making sure that these buildings are absolutely pristine, and they are. They are ready for our students to have a successful launch of the school year. It's been exciting. I always love popping into the Zoom classes, particularly when the kids aren't expecting it. It's been a thrill for me, but we've got to continue to work hard and make sure that everybody knows learning is happening at CPS this year. Everybody needs to get into the game, and we're happy to take your questions.
Hi, Mayor.
It's mine.
Good to be here. Seems like I'm the only student who showed up. That would have never happened, by the way. All right, so lots of on-topic questions that people just want help, I think, figuring this all out. Let's talk about screen time for younger students.
Yeah.
Some educators think it's not effective without parents there with the student. What's your message about screen time?
Well, look, I think that the thing that is that when those teachers are engaging their students, and we saw that over and over again today, they're going to be engaged. And they're going to, and if the teachers have a lesson plan, a mission, and a path to go, the students are going to be connected, and they're going to learn. Dr. Jackson, I don't know if you want to add to it, but I know as the parent now of a seventh grader who started today, it's all about making sure that the teachers are engaged. If they're engaged, the students are going to be engaged.
Thank you, Mayor. Just echoing the mayor's remarks, it's also important to note that our guidance provides for not only direct instruction via the screen, but also for hours of instructions where students step away and work independently on work in their homes. And so we know that the guidance is grade level appropriate. Obviously, we're going to learn a lot in this environment, but we feel strongly that the guidance that we put out is in alignment with the best practices in the research on screen time.
Kylie Martin was monitoring the CTU Zoom call this morning, and she says a teacher raised concern that her internet went out at home. So what resources do you have available to teachers? And also, as the first quarter progresses, what metrics will be used to figure out if the second quarter is also remote?
Yeah, so for teachers, as we saw here today, all of the classrooms are open and available and accessible. All of our schools are outfitted with high-speed internet access. And so if there are teachers that have unreliable internet access, we encourage them to teach from their classrooms. And as you can see today, we can do that safely. People are in the classrooms. You can social distance and do all of the things in order to reduce the spread of COVID. But I would say to any teacher who is having difficulties like that, the schools are open and we welcome you back into your classroom.
This was also for you, Dr. Jackson. Now, what are the biggest challenges CPS is facing to continue to instruct special education?
Yeah.
And how are you addressing those challenges?
Yeah, that's a priority for us. As I've said over and over again, nothing replaces in-person instruction, and that's even more true for our special education students. We learned a lot of lessons from the spring, and so making sure that those classes are programmed adequately, making sure that we had best practices for teachers to implement. As you can see in one of the classrooms that we were in earlier, the teacher is there, the co-teacher is there, and even the special education classroom assistant is available. What parents should expect this year is to see more small group instruction. That's where special education teachers may take a small group of students offline and meet with them through Google Meet or by other means in order to give them that direct and specialized attention that they deserve and require.
This one comes from Hannah Leon. Some families who hope they be eligible have reported being unable to get internet from Chicago Connected. So how many CPS families do you estimate still lack the high-speed internet, and are you considering changing the eligibility criteria for Chicago Connected?
We've published that criteria, and we have said if there are additional slots, we will make those available, but we have to exhaust the list of eligible families. We also think it's important for people to note that many of the internet service providers have offered really affordable packages for families. If there's any family that isn't eligible but in need, I would encourage them to contact their school principal. We can help them figure this out.
This is also from Hannah. Many teachers are telling students they have to keep their cameras on during the live classes. If this is a district-wide mandate, can this be enforced or affect students' grades?
I mean, this is one of those things where the whole purpose of us asking for cameras to be on is really to engage. We were just talking to teachers upstairs who talked about the fact that they have high expectations for their students. It's really hard to engage students without being able to see them. Sometimes you can tell if a student has a question, if the message isn't reaching them by looking at them. And so that's the reason for that. I think most of our students are encouraged by doing that. Look, what I've heard from my own kids and as well as the kids here today is that they were happy to see their classmates, and so I don't think this is going to be an issue.
How many families are signed up for the 6 school supervision sites, and do you think 6 is enough? How are those sites staffed?
Actually, we plan to launch in a couple of weeks many more sites, so we're going to serve thousands of families. I think that's important. But Mayor Lightfoot wanted to make sure we had something ready on day one, so there are a few hundred families that are being serviced today. I don't have the exact numbers, but happy to share that later today.
Dana Kozlov is asking, there have been some technical glitches in the system, and will kids be counted absent this week if there were connectivity or technical issues?
Absolutely not. We're working directly with our families. You got principals like Principal Thurman and others across the city who are working through those technical issues. Our plan has been about flexibility. We anticipated some of these things happening, but people are working extremely hard to get our kids connected, and we're going to make every effort to ensure that they're not only counted in attendance, but that they have access to their teachers so they can learn.
Okay. One of Amy Jacobson's questions is an education question. Mayor, are you aware of hundreds of parents who've taken their children out of CPS to either move out of state or transfer to private school? And also,
The answer is no. I think we have done we have consistently done work over the course of this summer to make sure that our parents were kept up to date, that their voices were heard. CPS has done an extraordinary amount of engagement with parents, and I feel very comfortable about the level of engagement. Obviously, we're in a unique time, but we're in a unique time all over the country. Not just Chicago, not just Illinois, not just the Midwest. Every single school district across the country is making sure that they're doing things that make sense for that particular locality. We're no different than that, and we're going to continue our engagement. We want to make sure, as I said in my opening remarks, that all of our students understand the supports that are there, that the teachers are reaching out, that the building principals are reaching out, that the LSCs are active and engaged. This ecosystem in supporting our young people has to be strong, has to be forward-thinking, and really we're all here to make sure that our students have a healthy, safe, and nurturing environment in which to learn, and we're all committed to making sure that happens.
Is the goal to still hopefully have some in-person learning before the year is over?
Yeah, of course. But as we said from day one, we're going to be guided by what the public health numbers tell us. We're starting to see some progress in our numbers, but we are not there yet. And we monitor them on a day-by-day basis. And if we see that there is an opportunity, we're going to make sure that we engage the school community ahead of time. Obviously, parents, teachers, building principals need to know if we're going to transition back into some kind of hybrid. But today's the first day, and today's about making sure that we celebrate the accomplishments of our children and get them connected so that they can have a successful launch for school.
And the president, Mayor, is threatening to pull funding from schools that adopt the 1619 project by the New York Times. Can he do that? And
No, it's just more hot air. We're a democracy, and in a democracy, we do not hide or erase our history. The 1619 project was one that Dr. Jackson and CPS embraced. We think it's critically important that our young people of all races and ethnicities and backgrounds understand this important part of American history and know the president has no power to try to take funding from any school district. And if he does, obviously, we will see him in court.
All right, Mayor, can we pivot to some other stuff,
Sure.
other topics up here? So we are hearing 10 people killed, 50 plus people shot. The role of the police department this weekend. Are you satisfied with the job that CPD did? And did they at least stick to the plan?
Well, I think if you look at where we've been over the last 6 or 7 months, what you're seeing, I think, is tremendous progress. No one's satisfied. No one's taking a victory lap, but we're clearly seeing progress. If you look at August compared to July, we saw a 45% reduction in homicides, a 15% reduction in shootings. In September, of course, it's early days. We're starting to see a similar kind of trend of going down in homicides, going down in shooting. But as I've said many times, public safety isn't just about the police. There's a whole ecosystem that we rely upon and that we lean into to make sure that our residents are safe. Every part of that ecosystem has to be strong, whether it's the courts, whether it's the prosecutors, whether it's community-based organizations who we don't think about as being crime prevention. But when you're supporting individuals and families and neighborhoods, that is an important part of public safety. So all parts of that system, which were dramatically impacted by COVID-19, every facet of it, are now coming back. And I think that, in addition to the new strategy that the superintendent and his team have employed, are why we're seeing progress on our fight against violent crime. But we still need the support of the federal government. If we don't have common sense gun control, if we don't have a restriction on assault weapons, if we don't empower the ATF to be able to regulate federally licensed gun dealers, all those things that we know really contribute to the amount of guns that are on our streets. That is something that the federal government is uniquely qualified to do. I sent a letter to the president back in July laying out the things that I thought the federal government could help with. Still waiting to hear from him. But we're going to keep fighting the fight here in Chicago, and I'm pleased to say we are absolutely making progress.
Let me see if I can zip through just a few of these because we got not a lot, maybe three more.
Too.
All right, so let's do Craig Dellamore. How extensive might layoffs have to be if Congress does not come through with the financial assistance Chicago needs to close the $800 million budget gap?
Well, I don't want to speculate about that, but what I've been very clear about is in this time where we've got a $1.25 billion budget deficit for next year, there are going to have to be some painful choices that are made, and everything has to be on the table, including the potential for layoffs. That's a conversation that we've just begun with our friends in organized labor, but we can't ask individual taxpayers to give us more if we don't prove to them that we are being good fiduciaries of their tax dollars, and that includes making painful sacrifices. No one wants to see that happen. No one wants to see a reduction in the kind of services that are core to what we do as a city government. But we are looking at a variety of options. And of course, we have no way of knowing at this point whether or not Congress is going to see a breakthrough. I certainly hope so. COVID-19 has had a bipartisan impact on cities and towns all across our country, and we need a bipartisan resolution.
John Byrne has a good off-topic here out. The city council poised to approve a $3.8 million settlement in a lawsuit brought by a police officer who says she was transferred out of News Affair because she reported her coworker harassing her. City lawyers say the suit could have been settled without payment if she got her job back at News Affairs. How did this happen, and what are you doing about it?
I'm not going to get into the particulars of any individual case. Obviously, this is a matter that's up before the Finance Committee and then will be voted on by the full City Council tomorrow. But look, I'll say this. There's no secret that we've got to do better within CPS to make sure that sorry, I said CPS, I meant CPD. We need to do better within, sorry, Dr. Jackson. I got CPS on my brain, obviously. We need to make sure that we do better to make sure that officers who are reporting misconduct have the support that they need to be able to do that. That is why we were heartened at the gains that we made in the supervisors' contracts around anonymous reporting. And we're going to continue to fight that fight as we sit at the bargaining table with the FOP.
Any sense of how the enrollment is looking? Any early numbers on that?
I think it's too soon for us to tell. I think it's varied from school to school, but CPS will have a better accounting of that at the end of the day, and we're going to continue to really follow the example that Principal Thurman has set, which is knocking doors, calling people, and making sure that they understand that school is in session and how important it is for their children to be connected. I also want to acknowledge Chairman Sawyer, who's here with us. He's the chairman of the health committee. This school obviously is in his district. He's a great partner for all the schools in his ward, and I want to acknowledge his presence here with us today.
You guys want to ring in the first?
Yeah.
Oh,
Ring the bell.
I'll let Dr. Jackson do
Oh,
it.
good. There you go. We get the pleasure. All right. Well, this is a ritual, so we got to try to bring back as much normalcy as possible. So cheers to a new school year.